Elsenborn, Krinkelt, Rocherat. Ici, la 2e division blindée, les têtes d'Indiens, va faire échec à la plus importante offensive allemande et permettre au commandement américain de concentrer les unités nécessaires pour faire de la crête d'Elsenborn un bastion imprenable.
Il y a une place la plus importante de tout. Il était au nord, dans le nord, au charnier du nord de l'offensive. Il y a là 2 divisions américaines et une partie de nôtre qui sont arrêtées, la 6e armée blindée tout entière. Et cette armée était l'effort principal des Allemands, le Schwere Punkt, comme les Allemands disent. Et ils sont arrêtés, les Allemands, dans une place qui les Américains sont nommés Elsenborn Ridge, c'est-à-dire la crête d'Elsenborn. Et quand on arrête l'effort principal d'une armée, le Schwere Punkt, les chances de succès sont très maigres.
I went on the front lines on my 19th birthday. We were all green. Every man in the division, including the officers, had never seen combat. Then the tanks come right in at us, right in the middle of the forest. They just overran us. So I saw one tank, what we were doing was firing our rifles at the periscopes. And that would, of course, a periscope has 2 mirrors inside so the tanker can look inside here and he's looking at an angle at you. And we'd blow their lenses apart and then they'd have to pull them out and replace them with another one. But they only have so many periscopes inside a tank. And that would make them blind, the driver, for the time being, and give our men a chance to run to one side, throw a rifle in the sprocket of the tank, and the front sprocket, it would throw the track off, which we did, and the tank could only go around in a circle then. All right, the second tank came in and pulled in around the first tank, and he came right for me. And as he did, I turned around, I saw a shallow foxhole right by me. I dived into that hole. He came right over the top of my hole with his track on purpose. So then he stopped, and then he gunned the track, trying to cave in the hole, which he did. He buried me, but he was trying to crush me at the same time. Of course, I was scared out of my head, and I just wrapped my arms over my head, and I could do nothing else and wait. And then he drove off the top of me, and I was buried, and I just forced myself up out of the hole and pushing the dirt off the top of me. And I turned and I looked and I see him going back, and he went over another kid directly behind me, did the same thing, gunned his track, and then he drove on. Of course, they're shooting all around at the time, and some of us ran over to where that kid was, and we knew it was no sense of even trying to help him. He was crushed. So we re-engaged the tank that we had disabled by one of the men throwing a rifle in the sprocket. And the machine gunner was still, the tank was going round and round, and the machine gunner was blind inside the tank. He kept shooting the machine gun in any direction. One of our men ran over with his empty rifle, took it by the muzzle, and came down like a baseball bat and hit the barrel of the machine gun, bent the machine gun, and put that out of action. We had been walking for many, many hours, and we were totally exhausted, and we sat down for a rest, and the Germans held off, and they sat down and waited to engage us. They knew we were in a bad situation. The officers, our officers, got together, and they decided to take a vote among the men to see if we wanted to surrender. So they come walking amongst us and taking a thumbs up, a thumbs down vote, and as I understand that just about 100% of the men, we had already heard about the massacres by this time for one thing, that we were going to go down fighting. So the officers went back, turned the vote in. They had a big argument with the colonel of the battalion at that time, and then finally the colonel got up and walked away from him. We thought he was going to have thinking about making his decision. And after a little while, nobody was paying much attention to him, and all of a sudden somebody let out a yell. He's going out there to surrender to the Jerry's. And we turned around and looked, and he had walked halfway from our positions to the Germans, and he had hidden a white sheet inside his shirt. and he pulled it out and he was waving it to the Germans, and he was actually going to surrender us. One of our officers ran out to him, caught up with him, and built him across the back of the head with a rifle, knocked him out, dragged him back and the sheet, and we took the sheet and we buried it under the snow, and we took him under arrest then, and then we continued on trying to escape the trap.
L'offensive allemande vers Liège et Anvers est enrayée, grâce notamment à l'action de ces jeunes soldats de la 99e division d'infanterie. Les têtes d'Indiens ont rempli leur mission. Malheureusement, beaucoup de fantassins de première ligne sont faits prisonniers. C'est la première fois que les Allemands capturent autant d'Américains.
Why the supply trucks pulled up that night was real late. And then we had orders to unload the supply trucks and load on the ammunition and guns and whatever we had, ammunition, guns and machine guns, and load them on a truck and move out. We moved out in complete darkness. It was roughly about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we go down the road, our last truck, I was on the last truck, and he should have made a right-hand turn about a half a mile down the road. Anyway, he missed the road, and there was a tank in the middle of the road, and he got stopped.
An American tank?
No, it was a German tank. And no sooner we stopped our truck, there was another tank locked us in between. And 2 seconds after, Mr. Pittman hollered, "Don't nobody fire," and then there was 2 German soldiers jumped on the truck and pointed burp guns at our head and hollered, "Grâce, Grâce." So we jumped off the truck, knocked off our helmets, we dropped our weapons, and we become prisoners of war. And as we were marching back into Germany, we ran across some German engineers. And there was a big German officer sitting on top of staying on top of the hill watching his men work with a monocle in his eye and so forth. We had 3 black American soldiers with us at that time. This German officer, seeing these 2 black American soldiers, he pulled them out of line, marched them across the field, and put a gun right behind our head, and he shot them right there in cold blood and murder. And we kept going back into Germany. And as I was marching back into Germany, the German army was moving forward, loaded with infantrymen, trucks loaded of infantrymen just moving, and they kept hollering, "Paris for Christmas, Paris for Christmas."
À Paris pour Noël, ce n'est pas sûr. Malgré la vigueur des attaques allemandes, le bastion d'Elsenborn tient. Mais à quel prix? Les pertes américaines sont énormes. La 2e division d'infanterie a sans doute perdu quelques 2500 hommes. Le nombre exact n'a pu être établi. Le 20 décembre, le commandant de cette division, le général Robertson, reçoit du général Hodge ce message. Ce que votre division a réalisé ces 4 derniers jours restera à jamais dans l'histoire américaine.